It's going live. Just give it a second. Hello, back again. The Chat Box with King Jacob with special guest co-host Queen Unique, and of course a special guest with back with a phenomenal topic, Queen Marty Brandon. Hello, ladies. How are you this evening?
Hello, hello. I am doing well.
Yeah, I already know. Hey,
Right. So,
y'all.
tonight's topic is a sort of a a new type energy for me. I hear about it on the news and stuff, but I actually never had somebody on my show that's been through this. So tonight's topic is mothers that face gun violence, and it's a really deep topic when it comes to the things that's going on in the Black community all across America. We talk about the gun violence, but we never get into mothers that face gun violence and how it affects and changes their lives. So, Queen Marty, we're gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself, and we're gonna get into this topic, and we're gonna go in to let the people know. We're gonna educate them, and we're gonna just let you give your testimony as well.
All right, all right. Thank you, first of all, for having me here on your show. It is truly a pleasure to be able to come and share my experience and my journey, um, about gun violence and what's going on in this world. So, first of all, my name is Marty Brandon, and I am from Baltimore, Maryland. And I am a wife, a mother, a mentor. I am a woman who truly, truly believes in my heavenly Father, um, and I love the spiritual relationship that I have with Him. Um, I am a. I don't want to say that I'm a victim. I like to now say that I am a survivor. So, um, and I'm just here. I'm here. And when I tell my when I tell people about my survivor story, um it kind of shocks them because a lot of people hear about people who get gunned down and die at the hands of people who commit these heinous crimes off of one bullet. um I took 10 bullets and survived. Um, I was shot once in my face here and it fractured my jaw. Once in my left shoulder, left arm, twice in my left leg, once in my left breast, twice under my left breast, and twice in my right breast. And and I am I am here. Um, when I went through that actual, I'm just going to take myself back to relive that moment. To kind of give people. I can't talk too much because my case is still in um litigation. You know what I mean? So it's still I haven't been in court yet for my case. So um on that particular day, I was out in my yard and I was, helping my son with something, and um we were approached by two gunmen, and we didn't know who they were at the time. Um, and my son, he looked, and we looked at each other because it wasn't a good feeling. I have a very discerning spirit, and the feeling wasn't good. So my son said, "Mom," he said, "run." So as I went to run, I was chased down, and I'm telling you, the Holy Spirit came to me at that point in time and said, "Stop running." I stopped running. I put my hand up at the perpetrator, and I said to him, with some other language behind it, "Don't shoot me. Don't you shoot me." And he shot me in my face. Um, it felt like a ton of books hitting me in my face. And as I was going down, I always can remember my grandmother say, "When you come upon an enemy, you call on the name of Jesus." So as I was going down, I cried out, I said, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus." And I went down. And at that moment, I didn't feel anything else happened to me. Um, all I can remember after that was my neighbor coming out, and I heard her scream and yell, saying, "Oh my goodness, no, you didn't shoot Marty. No, you didn't shoot her." And that what made the perpetrator run off. She came and she sat beside me and she rubbed me on my head and everything, and she was, crying and saying, "I can't believe somebody would do this to you. You of all people." And so then my husband came out because he thought that it was firecrackers at one point, but then as he was looking out the door, he saw the person standing over top of me, shooting me, and of course at that point, somebody who can't protect their family member felt helpless. Um, we were also looking for my son because he was there with me, and my husband said that he thought that my son may have been laying beside the car dead because he didn't see him, but my son had went to shelter. And at that point in time, all of the actual, it was just like the scene was set for a movie, because in a matter of about 5 minutes, there was two officers on the scene that heard it, that was close by. And he came to me, that particular officer, and he asked me, "Where have you been shot?" And I couldn't say anything because I had to mumble, and because of my facial injury. And I had to mumble and tell them, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." That's all I kept saying. Um, but when the paramedics came to help me at that time, also, it was just like I had to close my eyes because I was having an out of body experience, and I don't really feel to me. And most people say, "Well, maybe you were in shock." I don't think it was a shock thing. I think it was a revelation of what was told to me 10 years prior, that one day I was going to see how heavily guarded by angels I was. And this was spoken to me 10 years prior. So when the paramedics came to help me, I just felt like this is it. Not like this is it at the end of my life, but this is it, what the prophet I came across 10 years prior told me. And now I'm able to witness this. I didn't feel any pain, nothing but the just the pressure of being shot in the face. I didn't feel any pain in my body. I just felt like I was here. And upon the arrival at the hospital, of course, the trauma team was around and waiting for me to come. And they were setting me up and everything, and they were talking to me, and they just couldn't believe that I was as alert as I was. And once they did all the testing on me, I can remember the surgeon and about four doctors and two nurses and even the security guard that they had monitoring the room I was in, and they came back in the room with me and they wanted to let me know. And the surgeon touched my leg, and she said this to me. She said, "All I can say can you see me?" She said to me, she said, "All I can
Well, I can
say,
see you. You good.
okay, all I can say is I just witnessed a miracle." She said, "I have taken care so many gunshot victims coming through here, and they have died from one bullet. You survived 10 bullets. And the only bullet that caused damage is the one that hit you in your face. The other nine that hit your body did not touch not one major organ in your body." She said, "I just witnessed a whole entire miracle." And I just was like, I'm here. I'm here. And it just seemed so surreal at that time. And I just kept trying to figure out, you know, what is it that I'm supposed to do in this next journey of my life? The because when I got placed into a ICU, and everybody was coming to see me, they was expecting to see a woman that was plugged up to life support, with tubes going everywhere out of her body, and that wasn't me. And people were shocked and was like, "I know this ain't the same person that the surgeon kept coming out talking about. It was a touch and go, and you've been shot 10 times. And you sitting here and you're talking and you're mumbling like, I could mumble and you could understand me. I know this ain't the person that they told us to prepare for the worst." And I'm like, "Did they tell you that?" You know? Um, and when my detective came to see me, he said, I had to ask your husband, "Is your wife a woman of God?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "I just witnessed a miracle also." So at that point, I had to realize, how can I set myself up for this next phase of my new life? Because it's a new life now. Because most people don't get a chance at this new life. I now have a new birth date. So, what can I do with this? How can I not let this hinder me as a person or make me become a person that I am not? And so I battled with it for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It was just like I battled. And I just had to have some quiet time. And when I got to having my quiet time, I said, I had a conversation with God. I said, "What is it that I can do with this so that I won't become angry, bitter, and I can help other people who love me just as much, um, not become those people that hurt me? What can I do with this?" And so again, the Holy Spirit showed up and said, "You have to forgive. You have to. You have to. This is the only way you are going to be able to live a normal life again. You have to forgive." And so I had to go to all those people that were angry around me and tell them, "I don't need nobody going to harm anybody else. I don't need no one um doing any type of retaliation. We got enough bloodshed on the streets of Baltimore here. I don't need all of that for me. I need to um show this person or people who tried to take my life, I need to show them how God worked. Because if he could save my life, he still have the power to save theirs. Because whether we come to him clean or dirty, he could turn us into believers. And so that's my that's my journey now. Um, just letting people know that you don't have to quick think and think that if somebody do something to you eye for eye, that you have to come back that way, because that's not sometimes that's not what it's about. Because God keeps us here for a reason, and he kept me here for that was one of the reasons he kept me here, to show the non-believers that who don't believe how real he truly is. And with the people who have tried to take my life, that you still have time to turn your life around. So that's where I'm at this point, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I get so many people who say to me, that's so strikingly odd. Like, you're so forgiving for somebody to try to take your life. And I said, God wouldn't have it any other way. No other way. No other way possible. And I get up every day, and I'm not going to say that if I ride past a group of guys or anything like that, that I don't feel a little nervous or fearful, but I know that I am covered. And whatever way it decides to
Right.
go with me in the next life, you know what I mean? I'm covered. So I get up every day, and I try to live as normal as I possibly can. So that's like, this is a part of my journey right now. So, you know, I'm big on this forgiveness thing. I'm big on it because um another thing that had came out of that whole situation was um when I got shot and they had to do all these tests on me and everything. I found out that I was suffering from a heart disorder. And so the way I look at it is, I say the young man who tried to take my life actually saved my life. Because had not I got shot, I wouldn't have known that I had this heart disorder until the day I had a heart attack. So because
Mm.
he shot me, I had to be seen. I had to get the particular test, and the particular test picked up on that particular heart disorder. And so now that process was another process for me, which through that part, I was placed in the hands of one of the top doctors in this particular organization who's taking care of me. And that particular problem hasn't grown anymore. It stopped. So God does things in in the way that he needs to do it, and he does things well, whether we don't like the way it happens, but he does it well. And so it's just awesome. And I'm not upset, and I'm not angry, and I'm not walking around bitter, and I'm not walking around talking about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do. Um, what I am talking about, what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do, is how I could change the lives of these young people, and get them back in place of where they need to be. Um, that's just my it's just my journey, and I'm here, and this is why I'm here. I'm just a living testimony. That's all I can say. I'm here, and I'm here to share the story. I'm here to share the journey. I'm here to share the experience. I'm here to give myself away for that. And so, um
Mm.
like I tell my family, um You know, I'm not even going to say I'm a sacrifice because God already sacrificed one of us. So I'm here. You know, He already sacrificed His son. So, I'm here. And so I'm just a living proof that um, that miracle signs and wonders are true. They are true. They are very true. So that's my story thus far. It's more behind the story, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's definitely more behind the story, and about me getting shot and everything, because I met a prophet 10 years prior, um, who told me. She said, one day you're going to see how heavily guarded by angels you are. And when she was talking to me, um, she was saying, "Oh my goodness, they're all around you. I could see them." And of course, when she was saying this to me, I was scared. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Because I didn't even know this woman. This woman picked me out a line of like 20 people. I was in a store shopping. And the crazy thing about my whole incident also is that revelation came to 10 years later, to be exact, because I had shared when I met the prophet, I had shared it on my Facebook page. So when I got shot, it popped up in my memories. And the
Mm.
day I got shot, 217 equaled up to the number 10. And how many times I got shot was 10 times.
Mm. Wow. Mm.
Oof.
And 10, and
Have
for
mercy.
me, spiritually, you know, 10 is a sign, is the number for completion.
It's done. It is done.
Mm.
It is done.
It is done.
It is done.
Wow.
Well,
Mm.
well, Queen, Queen, I hear you talk about that word forgiveness, and so it resonates in my spirit that we should talk about revenge versus forgiveness in the city of Baltimore.
Mm.
So when this is the way I look at revenge. Revenge is never ending here in Baltimore. It's never ending because it's you get my homeboy, I get your homeboy. You get my homeboy, I get your mother or your father or your child. And what I've learned about this whole process and dealing with it is that you could take a life. The life that you take has no feeling anymore once it's gone. The people that you're
Mm-hmm.
hurting are the people that's left behind. So you're really not hurting the person life that taken, because when your breath is gone out your body, it's gone. You're gone to the next life, you know.
Right.
But the person that's left behind is the person that's left to survive that pain. And so, why do you still want to inflict pain on people, loved ones, because you have an unresolved lack of communication problem with someone? Because most of these things that's going on can be communicated and solved if it gets the right and proper people into the mix of it to make it happen. It's a lack of communication. And what I've said
Mm.
is, what's happening in the Black community is that assumption plus lies plus rumors equal Black people facts.
Mm.
So, because most of the time people assume that it is and it really isn't, right? And then they spread rumors that really isn't. right? Because rumors can become deadly, and they spread lies that could become deadly. And the one thing I learned is when I work with my young ladies that come through my program, and some people probably already know of this, I do a group session with them. It's called Telephone Off the Hook, and I whisper something in the first young lady's ear, and I tell her to pass it along through every young lady in the group. And then the last young lady in the group has to give me what was said from the beginning. And by the time it reaches back to me, it's never
It
what
is
I
never
started
the
off saying.
same. Exactly.
So that's just something to let me know that this is what's going on in the community. This
Yeah.
is what's going on. And it's killing us. It's killing us. It's killing us. And um we have to battle it, and it's killing us. And the thing is, it's an entity that's walking amongst this earth. And it's like it passes on from one person to the next person. And we just have to figure out how we're going to battle this, because it has to come with some type of communication first. Because if I don't know what you're feeling and you don't know what I'm feeling and you don't really know what happened, then it becomes a problem. So we lack in communication.
Mm.
Now, in my incident, I'm quite sure when it all comes out in court that it could have been something that could have truly been talked about and resolved. Just that simple. Or it just could have been something, just could have been just like, it ain't that heavy, you know? Because in my mind is, what takes a person to that part of your brain to make you go that dark that you want to take another person's life? That has to be some type of darkness, because there's no light in that, none
And
whatsoever.
we know with us being from Baltimore City, um, one of my reasons that I left is because it is a dark place. It's a dark place even on the sunniest day that the Lord could allowed us to have. Being away now for 10 years from Baltimore give me a different insight on, what you're talking about, like that trauma. And I like to answer your question when you say what can make a person do it. Y'all know the saying, hurt people hurt people.
Yes.
One thing that I see from afar now, even with me healing from being infected by gun violence there, and when I got your call, it was just like, well, I called you. I called you because we were doing the event,
Hmm.
and I didn't get an answer. And when I was told that you were shot, as many times as you was, the first thing I just took me back to that place when I lived there. Um, and I just I asked God, like, you can't you I knew God couldn't, like, I knew God could take you away, but you can't take her away when we just supposed to be working together on, let's heal together. Like, that just didn't make any sense to me. So,
Right.
but then in 3 days, just like the words say, everybody know I'm not the favorite Bible scholar. I'm kind of like, I'll better you a little bit about it. But in 3 days, you were on the phone and you were talking to me. So for me, it was also real, but it took me back into my trauma,
Oh, back up.
of why
Oh, back.
I said in 3 days she was on the phone
I
talking
just
to
want to
me.
interrupt. Yo, I just want to chime in on that. I just want to interrupt you on that. So this queen, oh my God, listen, man, listen.
Like nothing had
For
happened.
all you
Like
people
her
out there,
voice
and,
wasn't
and
slogging. It wasn't
let,
dirty day. She was just talking like, hey.
if
And she
you're
had
at
been shot in
home
the face.
and you're watching this podcast, we
Mm.
are speaking about mothers that face gun violence, and now the statement just was made by Queen Unique. Um, Queen Marty was shot 10 times and in the face,
Mhm.
and in 3 days, she was speaking very, very, I'm gonna say fruitful. I'm not gonna
She
just
was
say that she was speaking.
inspiring in three
She was
days. In
speaking.
3 days, she woke up and
Yes,
she
and
was, it was not a petty, it was not. first thing I was thinking like, oh my God, we can't do this event. We got to cancel it. Marty said, no, we're not. She said, no, we're not. And from the hospital
Mm-hmm.
bed, she made she still was working from the hospital bed. And then when she said like she was
You
up
know,
walking and
wow, wow.
and I said I
She
share that
just,
to
she
say
just,
that Marty know why I left. I left because of the murder of my children's
Yeah,
father. And like she said,
yeah,
one bullet, one bullet can take somebody's life. One bullet took his life. When I was talking to him on the phone, and I grew up a young girl. I was so in love with him, and I knew Marty. They were friends. Him and her were friends. So
yes, yes,
they were that whole clique was almost like my superhero. They were a little bit older than us and very
yes.
protective over us. So, and even now,
Mm-hmm.
they're still protective over us. So, like, it's
Yeah,
her. This interview tonight for me is much needed. It is a difficult one, but is one to be shared, is a moment to be praised. And
yeah,
I'm happy that I get to look from afar, even though Marty is still so close. And we both are saved for something.
yeah,
Um, and I know in our city that our children are hurting. I was only 19 years old when that happened to me. And if you would have gave me a pill, well, probably wouldn't have did it because I was scared to die. But besides me being scared to die, you want that pain to be gone away. I did start smoking marijuana heavenly because I wanted, and I never had smoked before. I wasn't smoking weed before. I was always a pretty cool kind of girl and was just high off of life in itself. So I didn't have to drink or do anything prior to the incident that happened to me with him. But it does change you, and just being that youth voice. If I could answer like why and how you can stand there and do these things, because you don't have a feeling anymore. In Baltimore City, you lose so much at such a young age. You lose yourself. You don't, it was days that I woke up that I didn't care if I died. Like, I woke up and I mean, I didn't have a feeling. I wasn't scared to die, didn't care about it. We just was pretty much scheduling funerals, as if it was a class curriculum. And even
and
now, I'm 40. All my
that's
friends are pretty much gone, that I grew up with in Baltimore City. And that makes it easy to die and kill, and it makes it very difficult to live and heal. And
yeah,
so that's how I don't care what you put in, what you bring in, because that child that just seen somebody brains blew out, they still got to go to school. They still got to try to eat dinner. They still got to get over it. People don't talk
yeah,
about it because it's our normal.
yeah,
We get up and we leave the house and we expect not to come back home. The best thing is that, oh my God, you made it back home. Oh my God, you made it till you was 21 years old. Like in our city, is a big deal to make it until you 18 to walk across the graduation stage. Life expectancy in Baltimore City, you do not expect to live. So how can you prepare for a healthy life? And so this is why we do this here. And it's my dream to come back to my hometown to be able to do the work that I'm doing so far away, and to live through it and to hopefully change the narrative, because I do get it. Hurt people hurt people. And in Baltimore
yes.
City, we are not okay in Baltimore City. We're not okay
No, we're
because
not.
our sons are leaving, our daughters are leaving, our mothers, our fathers, our sisters, our brothers. Like you
Yeah,
see everything is as if you're living in a war zone. And it wasn't
yeah,
until I left Baltimore City for me to say, oh my God, like that was the most dangerous place ever, And when I come back there now, I'm so humbled to come back home and to be able to exit the city still alive and unharmed and unhurt, because it's so real. Like a lot of people say, oh, the wire does not compare to what it is that we
exactly.
are born into, like we're born into it. And so yes, we do come off a little rougher, a little tougher, because from the time you come out your mother womb in Baltimore City, you have to be ready to try not to die. It is no thing is, are you going to get beat up today? It's, am I going to get killed when I go to the store? Should I even go in here and pick up my cheesesteak or my chicken box? Because I don't know if I'm going to get killed. I don't know if I'm going to get killed if I just go over my friend's house or we just walking
Right.
or you just don't know. And but that's my
Exactly.
city. I love my city and I'm always going to have faith in my city. But it is easy to become what you are around. And we are around murder all day, every day.
Right. 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 And the whole thing I see also because um when we were growing up, of course, you don't, and I just had this discussion with another childhood friend as I was coming home this evening, and I said, what people fail to realize, whether you're good or bad, you still don't deserve to die.
Right.
Still don't deserve to die. And when I was growing up for me in Baltimore, because um I grew up in the community where, it was a little bit of it was a little bit of everybody in the community, in the area where we grew up, we had, people who had the Indian background, we had Caucasian, we had, of course, black
Indian,
person. We had, yeah,
Spanish.
definitely Indian, Hispanic.
Yes.
We had a little bit of everybody, but it was it was like a line drawn because it on our side we were all able to get along with everybody. But then if we went to the other side, it was a problem with because of who we were as black people. Because
Yes.
on the other, it's something that I always say on the other side of the park. On the other side of the
Oh, the
park,
KKK when you couldn't walk through Patterson
right?
Park
When you
without the
couldn't go through the
clans.
park, exactly.
Yeah.
But then within our own communities, we were fighting out another battle as black people. We were fighting a battle against each other.
Hmm.
If you went 4 blocks over and this community doesn't like because you live in this community, and unfortunately, um,
And you
the
all meet
numbers
each other
that
at Northeast Market, and who knows what's
exactly.
going to go down there.
And then, but back then we were seeing maybe what 40 to 60 murders, which is still way too many. But
Hmm.
now we are seeing an alarming numbers of murders.
300, 400 a year.
That's uh, it is so hurtful to see it. It's so hurtful to hear it. It's hurtful when you are counting past your fingers, your toes, every limb on your body of how many people you know personally who have lost a loved one to gun violence.
Hmm.
Um, and I just get so angered by people when they say, well, what is Mayor so and so doing? And what is this person doing? And I'm saying to them, but what are you doing? What are you doing?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
because our current mayor, yes, he grew up in Baltimore City. He is a survivor of what he could have been, but a lot of the politicians and people, they don't live here. They don't live in the city. They don't live to see what's going on. They get to go home into their well-to-do communities and live the good life and send their children to the most prominent schools and things like that. And I'm not saying that everybody came from a silver spoon, but most of the time when people make it out, they don't come back.
Right.
And that's what um, was one of my battles because Chantel knows she inboxed me all different kind of areas and communities in North Carolina. because I was thinking about coming there. I was thinking about going to Texas. I was thinking about going to Georgia. I was thinking about, it was a lot of places I was thinking about going. I just wanted to get away from here. I wanted to get away. But then I started to think about all the young ladies who I have been servicing over these last 5.5 years, plus more than 5.5 years now, almost close to 6.5 the years. Um, what about them? Because if they constantly keep getting people who are running away from them, who's going to be here to fight for them? So I'm willing to fight for them like I fight for my own children. You know, I beat the payment, and it hurt me when my own child, because I'm on both sides of the fence. I have a child too who entered the juvenile system when he got into high school. So, but I don't think I don't look at that as a bad thing as far as um him entering that system. As far as that, with the things that he did, yes, is bad. But as far as the journey that I had to take, I don't think so. Because if it's not relatable to me of who I need to service, and I can't understand them, to me, I can't help them. So I feel like everything that's happening to me has happened because of why I'm sitting here today.
Mhm.
You know, with my son going through the juvenile system. I've come across young people who come through the juvenile system. The gun violence. I've come across young people who have lost fathers, mothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, all of that. So now it's relatable. You know, um, I can't say I don't understand anymore because I understand.
Mm.
You know, so um, and I get so tired of people talking about what somebody else is doing because they wait until it hit their doorsteps and then they want somebody to give them an answer when we shouldn't be waiting until it hit our homes and say, oh, what, how can somebody help me now?
Wow. Right.
Because it has to be it has to be us being able to help somebody else before it happens, trying to be preventive and proactive on the situation and not waiting until it happens and say, okay, um, well, this person ain't do this for me and that person ain't do this for me. I beat the sidewalks of Baltimore City on some days when my husband was like, I don't want to go out there because I have to let him learn. My son learned as far as the value of being a young man. He has to learn, right? And me as a mother, I beat the sidewalks and I went into some of these communities where I walked up on 10 and 15 young men. I feel like I should have been dead a long time ago. Because when I walked up on my son and addressed my son as a mother would address her son, I addressed those 10 and 15 young men the same exact way.
Yes.
Because
Yes. And,
it's
and we need that. We need that more
because
than ever now.
because I don't just care about my child. I care about you, him, and them. You
Hmm.
know? And when I
Mm.
first went up to a young man who had given my son at age 14 drugs to sell, and I went, my son hooked school because I'm a parent. I'll show up at school at any given time. You don't know when I'm coming. I sit in meetings. I do all that. Everything that he needed to have. My husband and I were there. The support was there. The first young man who gave my son drugs to sell, my son cut school. Tracked him down. I went up to him. I ran his pockets, as they say. I dug in his pockets. I said, "Who gave you this?" Because I know the person who gave you this is somewhere near. Because he's going to watch his money. He's going to
Mm.
watch his money. Who gave you this? Where is he?
Mm.
He comes out of out of nowhere and asks my son, "Is he okay?" My husband and myself and a girlfriend of mine, Tiffany Lawson, you know her,
Mhm.
Chantel,
Mhm.
another friend, was with me. And the guy goes up to them because I'm on the other side looking to see if I can find him. And the guy comes up to my son while my husband has him and says, "Are you okay?" And my husband said to him, he said, He don't need you to ask him anything. I'm his father. And he's good. He's fine. And don't come up to my child and ask him no questions. He don't need nothing from you. So I come around there and I said to him, I said, did you give my son drugs to sell? And I told him, I said, you know what? I'm advising you not to do it again because it's going to be a problem. And it wasn't going to be a problem in a violent way, right? It was going to be a problem where I was going to make it hard for him. So what he said, you know what, ma'am? I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't know that your son came from a home like this. He said to my son at that given time, he said, don't you come around here trying to do this again because I'm not going to give you
Mm-hmm.
nothing. No, don't come around here. So then I turned around and I asked this young man, I said, how can I help you get off the street?
Mm-hmm.
How can I help you get off the street? What do you need? Do you need me to take you back to North Avenue to help you get enrolled back in school? Where's your mom? He said to me, he said, you know what? I wish I would have parents like you and like he has. I said, well, what
Mm-hmm.
do you need for me to do for you? I said, because do you need me to help you fill out a job application? Do you need to help me to help you get registered back in school? What is it? Because at this point in time, nobody's beating the streets, and I haven't seen
Right.
nobody beat the streets.
Right.
And this young man said to me, he said, well, I would like to try to get a job. I said, well, you see my car come through here all the time. Stop me. I said, you know what? I think you need a hug. And I hugged him. I said, do you mind if I hug you? And he said, no, ma'am, I don't mind if you hug me. And I gave him a hug. Because at that point in time, I had to let him know that somebody do care about him. Somebody do. And
Hmm.
that's one of the things, and that's one of the problems with these youth and people in
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore now. Everybody's angry.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's absolutely so angry.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just take the time to just listen, I always tell my children to listen. If we just listen, a lot of this stuff can start getting solved. It ain't gonna be solved overnight, but it can start getting solved. And so, you know, so when my son started getting in trouble and a judge said, you know, to me one time in court, she said, I think you need to start telling your son some things. And I said in my mind, I felt kind of bad at that point because I said, she don't even know me. She don't even know that I'm the parent that put her life on the line on a daily basis to go out here and look for her own son. I'm not waiting for the state to save my child. I'm not waiting for that. I'm not waiting for somebody to say, you know, um, we need to come and talk to you because we need you to ID your child. I'm not waiting
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
I wasn't waiting for that. I beat those streets myself and I put my life on the line every single time I went out there. And I wasn't afraid. So that's why my face was so known in there. And some of these young boys who my son would hang with, when they would come to home and come to my door at 11 o'clock at night, I could have slammed the door in their faces. I would let them in. Come in here and I said, hey, what's your mother's number? So I can call her.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing I don't do is I don't hibernate a bunch of young kids in my house. That's not me. Let me get your mother number and I'm going to call your mother up and let her know you're in my house. And I'll call those children's parents and I'll let them know your son is in my house. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm not going to put him out on the street. I'll send him out here in the morning. I'll let you know when he leaves in the morning because if something happened to your child in traveling between my house and your house at 11 o'clock at night, you know what that would do to my spirit and do to me mentally? That would hurt me. It don't have to be my child for me to be torn apart like that. And that's what and we are so far away from that now because everybody's saying, oh, if
Yeah.
it ain't my child, I don't
Yeah,
care.
a lot of people they say, but until it's your child, until it's your loved one that's being hit with that gun violence and affected by that gun violence. And it's something that I do not wish on anyone because it affects the whole family and the whole community. In some cases, because in your case, I remember getting on I think it's the Murder Inc. on Instagram
Mhm.
thingy where they have all the gunshot, and your story was up there, and just how the whole community was just affected. And just while we waiting to see what that looked like it affects the whole entire community. And even in your son case, like, I pray and I thank God that your son did not, when Jacob say the retaliation, if he go get his own gun. It makes it hard when you already trying to deal with your own personal stuff, especially as that youth that's in juvie. And then now my mother is hurt. It's like, that makes it a double whammy. And they are
Exactly.
people too. So it's like, how can you get comfortable as a young black male when your mother been shot 10 times, and you already have juvenile system, that's penalizing you for whatever your behavior was that you done, and you have to pay that consequence. And it just becomes like just a trickling or a load on top of load on top of
Exactly.
load. And I
Exactly.
see that so much in our city. It's just like we have a lot of correctional facilities, but we don't have, like, when we were growing up, we had 27 in the rec, and we
Yes.
had our mothers and the people from the neighborhood over there
Yes.
every Friday night skating rings and things like that. That's no longer. And most of the time, people, like, I mean, even with me working with the girls out here in North Carolina, I have very few parents that's showing up. Some of the parents I've never seen, but I do go and get that child,
Mm-hmm.
just to try to prevent them from going down the same roads. I mean, when Kedrick was murdered, I still raised a son who's still suffering because his father was murdered. So it impacts us in so many different forms
And
and ways. And we need parents to show up. And even those parents that don't have any biological kids, like, that's all the more reason to show up. I just feel like if you can give your job 8 hours a day, you can give a kid 30 minutes in a day, so
exactly.
it's,
Exactly.
and it does truly take that village to change the narrative. And gun violence is spreading rapidly, because even now in Charlotte, I'm starting to say it's starting to feel like Baltimore, and I won't even cut the TV on, but I'm still hearing, the cases, and most of them are children. Most
Yes.
of them are young kids that's being killed or doing the killing. And I'm like you, forgiveness is key. I truly don't believe that putting these children and people in a cell is going to change the narrative. In fact, I feel like it's going to increase,
Yes.
the crimes that we see, because if you lock a person in a cage, they gonna come out biting and roaring and screaming every time. It's no real rehabilitation that's going
Teaching.
into these things.
Exactly.
And it's really no real assessing to say, okay, how did you get a gun? Did somebody make you have a gun? There's a lot of gang
Right.
banging out here. The kids have to eat. Some kids go and join the gang just because there's no food at home in the refrigerator. And we are
Exactly.
overlooking these things,
All
and
of
we
that.
saying, we say, oh, it's their fault. It's not. Once you really dig down into it and you become available, just like you say, walk up and give out a hug, you will be surprised what a hug do and how long that they had human touch. They don't have anyone touching them no more, not in an appropriate way, not in a way that's going to feed
Right.
them and help them grow and go to the next level. And
It's,
so I
that is
I
so true,
thank you for
Chantel.
your work that you're doing out there in our city. And I'm still looking forward. I'm telling around, like, you know what, I'm just gonna go up to Baltimore and just kind of camp out for a few weeks and hit the streets as well. Some people, oh, it's dangerous. It's dangerous everywhere. But what's most dangerous is us not showing up. That's what's most dangerous.
That's so true. That is so
Right, right,
true.
right.
And that's why I keep um that's why when it bothers me so much when people ask about what is this person doing and what is that person doing, because it doesn't take one person can't save our city.
No,
One person cannot save our city.
no.
One person definitely cannot save our city. I'm just so bothered, about everybody can show up, and it's no offense with anyone losing their life to being a victim of police crime and everything and all that, because we know
Yeah, but
about
they
how
can
that can
march
go.
for that.
But they can
I
march at
mean, but
that,
let's
but you
talk
can't.
about it. They can
But
march when a
but you,
police officer kill
but
you, But we sit here, and the best thing we can do for one another, and it truly pisses me off. The best
Yes,
thing we can do for one
yes,
another is we'll get a T-shirt made with your face on it. Or it's like we don't we wait till we slaying, and nowadays the gun violence and the murder has become a thing to celebrate. Like,
yes,
when have we gotten so sick with ourselves when we actually overlook all of the kids that we can prevent this from, or that's been impacted by it, but we go to the bodies that's laying and laying on the ground because we want to say, I know that person that
person,
was murdered
exactly,
too. I
exactly.
want to
And
go to the
it's
funeral.
like
We
becoming,
getting
it's
dressed
like
up and
becoming
treating
famous.
funerals. Yeah, it's almost like it's a party. It's the next, I call it, the next cookout conversation. And
Yeah,
it's absolutely totally disgusting. And our children are watching how we are receiving these things and how we're being accountable for the things that's happening, and what does responsibility look like. And to be quite honest, we can minus politics and we can look right into our own neighborhoods and community. There's a lack of accountability, a lack of responsibility and care and concern amongst
yeah,
each other. We can't expect anybody to come in and fix something that we refuse to fix.
right, absolutely. And so, um, I'm just, I'm just so bothered by the blame game. That's
Yes.
just like my biggest. I'm just so bothered by that, and
Yes.
um, and and just going back to what you were saying about the Instagram page and everything, and actually while I was in the hospital, I went on Instagram because I wanted to know what the world thought about me. What do people think about me? You know, and so um I can remember a couple comments. Somebody was saying, "Well, what did she do? A bad drug transaction in the alley? She must have did something bad." Then they said, "Oh, she must have set somebody up." Um, and then I remember an employee from that particular hospital that I was at came on and said, "I really can't say anything because of HIPAA." She said, "But whoever this woman is, she is loved." She said, "It is
I think
probably
I do
about,"
recall seeing that. She said
she
something about
said,
the emergency room was
yes,
flowing over and it was people everywhere. I do
everywhere.
recall reading that
She said,
comment. I
"It's
do.
people everywhere." And she said, "I believe it's well over 300 and something plus people
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
place for this woman.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's a
Mm,
celebrity or not, but
Yes.
whoever she is,
She
she
is
is loved."
loved. Yep. I remember reading that. And I'm going to
mm.
bounce off of what you said. My grandmother actually was shot in Baltimore before she transitioned, and she did not pass away due to gun violence, but my grandmother was shot there trying to help somebody get onto the bus. And it was said that my grandmother was shot because she was a kingpin in Baltimore City. My grandmother was not a kingpin. So it's
Wow.
like
Wow.
they say
People just say
everything. And
anything.
Listen,
yeah, she
yes,
got caught in a crossfire just trying to help someone on the bus. But people do say anything. But one thing I do know about Murray Brandon, we say Marty, but Murray Brandon is that you are love. Like, you are love. And I had a joke. I said this is the closest thing that I came to God's miracle and God's work, because in the name of gun violence, it's like I lay on my face and I say, God, you gotta show me, you gotta talk to me. I never wanted
hmm,
to ever, ever, ever come out about why I had left Baltimore City, because it's a
right.
touching thing to talk about. And Jacob, no, I said, I'm not doing gun violence. I'm not going doing gun violence. And in February, God spoke to my spirit and said, you know what? You don't pick and choose this journey. You don't say. And when you were kept, that's when I really knew, okay, we gotta definitely submit to God's will, and face
Absolutely.
the fire right there of gun violence. And I'm still so happy. Like, when I see you, I just, like, I stare at you sometimes because
I get
it's
it all the
amazing.
time. I get it all the time. And and it's like, God tells me who to share my story with, right? The Holy Spirit to
Mm.
come upon me. The Holy Spirit to come upon me and tell me who to share my story with. And um, today, I met two other people, another young lady who was shot 10 times and survived.
Mm.
And I met a woman in the
Mm.
store. I met a woman in the store,
Wow.
and she came up to me and asked me about how did a coat, it's before it got warm, how did a coat look on her?
Mm.
And I said to this woman, I said, it's a nice looking coat. And she asked me, she said, well, you like this store? Have you lived around here long? And I said, no. I said, I've kind of just moved in the area, blah, blah, blah. I said, I had a traumatic event that happened to me. And I said to her, she said, oh, really? And I said, yeah. And I shared my story with her. And this woman broke out into a shout in the store. She said, oh my God, to God, I give all the glory. And she said, you know why I'm doing this? You know why I'm doing it? She said, because I'm going to go home and share this with my mom. And she said, because my dad shot my mom when I was a little girl 10 times, and my mother is still living here to talk about it. She said, I'm going to let my mother know that there's
Mm.
another woman in this world like her. And so I'm just, it's just like it's an awkward feeling because when you say it to people, they look at you because it's like I shared it with one of my specialists, and even with my heart doctor, when I follow up to see him and his nurse came in the room and they just kept staring at me. And I'm like, and they kept staring at me, they kept saying,
Mm.
when they was walking in the room, they said, we thought we was going to walk in here, you was going to be walking with a cane. We thought you was going to have still be
Mm.
mumbling from your face being broke, from your jaw being broken. We thought that they said we was thinking all kind of things when we read your chart, you know.
Unbelievable.
And they was like,
Unbelievable.
they was like
Mm.
really, and they said really 10 times. And I said, yeah, 10 times, you know. And they just look at me like as though it's weird, like they never seen it. And I'm quite sure they probably never seen it. That never seen it. They probably heard of stories of it, but they never seen a survivor of it in their eyes. And I know it's other people, women and men and others out here like that, that's like me. And I just feel like when you're given this second life, you have to um you have to do the work of God. And I
Mhm.
was already a servant before it happened to me. So I gotta continue being a servant to the most
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's just the
That's
bottom
it.
line.
So Marty, what I want to talk about, Marty, real quick, is the spiritual growth after gun violence,
Mm.
and how did you grow spiritually, and how did grace and mercy help bring you through during those
Mm.
times where you had flashbacks? Because grace and mercy had to save you to awakening your
Yes,
spiritual growth.
yes, 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 yes. Well, um, of course, I got baptized when I was about 9 years old. Um, and in my household, um, my stepdad mom used to always take my brother and I to church, and then but she didn't believe in having you baptized until you got old enough to decide your own belief. But I end up branching off and going to church with my cousin's mother, and I end up getting baptized at 9. And I always was different than everybody else. And I never shared this with anybody, but I always knew that it was something different about me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, but you when you have that particular gift, sometimes you're afraid to answer the calling because that particular calling takes you to another place of not being able to do the things that you used to do, not being able to do the things you want to do. Um, sometimes somebody could rub you the wrong way, and you might come back and give them a little bit more than what you should have, but you instantly get convicted. And so, um, with grace and mercy, um, Lord knows it kept me here, right? But
Mm,
as
mm,
I was learning too, as I was learning when I came, because like Chantel said, she said something that I've been thinking, and I never spoke about it because I was like, I don't want nobody to think that I'm on the same level as Jesus. When she said I rose in 3 days, because I rose in 3 days, right? I rose in 3 days. I was up out the bed
mm,
walking, you know, um, and it it takes you to a place of um it it took me to a place of when in the Bible when Jesus said, forgive them, Lord, for they don't know, you know,
God.
not
it took
not
me
what they
to
do.
that place.
Yes.
Right, right. So it took me to that place, and and I said, that's how I was able to forgive Jacob, because it took me to that place, because I was like, if nobody is in his home teaching him about God, how did he know? He don't know.
And
He don't know.
what about
Right.
that spirit that's over you? You know what I mean? And I have
Right.
to remind myself that so much, because like you said, when you are taken to another level and you on your assignment, you have to try to remember that is a spirit that's over us all, and some of them are just simply not nice, and
Exactly.
they have to be checked.
Because
And
because what people don't know, and what I've learned along my journey, and when I came into the fullness of my spirituality, people don't know that Satan has to ask for permission from God for him to touch you, right? A lot of people don't know that. They just think that things just happen because it's just all Satan, right?
no, it's
It's not
not
all
always
Satan,
safe. Mm-mm.
right? He has to give that permission. God has to give the permission to allow Satan to touch you. And and when he does that, that helps you to become a better person in the Lord. It helps you become a better person spiritually. And what I learned is I can't always, just because something bad happened to me doesn't mean I turn my back on God. You know,
Mm,
I can't. I can't turn my back on God. I'm not going to keep on looking back, because I don't want to be like Lot's wife, turn into a grain of salt, right? So I have to keep on doing
mm,
the work. And I'm telling you, it's like when everybody's going to have to wait for my book to come out. But when you hear the story of everything that has happened to me to bring me to this point, people are going to be like, wow, because even like the closest people to me don't even know some of my story, and how I truly see that I have been a survivor and I have been covered for so long. And I just never knew the fullness and the greatness in the covering on my life, right? Because
mm,
when I used to work for the city health department, I used to go into work every day, and I used to have a coworker say to me every day, "Come on in here with your little anointed self." And I used to get irritated with her when she used to say that. And I used to say, "Why you always say that to me? Why do you always say that to me?" And she said, "One day you're going to see. One day you're going to see, you know." And when you got a calling on your life, and when you're different than people, you don't want to let people know who you really are. because it's not like an embarrassment. It's like people going to look at you strangely,
Mhm.
right? And because they don't understand, because they're not at their spiritual place yet, they're not at their spiritual level yet. So, and it's not for them to understand because everybody isn't born with that gift. You know, everybody isn't born with it. Um, and when I stepped out on faith and started the girls program, it was something that happened at my job, and it was something that I prayed about when before it happened at my job. I said, Lord, I said, if you open up a door, I promise you, whatever it is that you need me to do, I'm going to walk through it. I'm going to say yes to you. And that's why I said you got to be careful what you say and what you say yes to, right?
Mm,
Oh
And that's
gosh.
about an
Oh
that's
hour or
right.
gosh.
so after I said that,
Mm,
it was an incident on my job that happened,
Oh
right?
gosh.
And so I said, oh, now, God, you tested me. You tested me on another spiritual level because you want to see if I'm going to be obedient to this, right? And and again, the Holy Spirit came to me at that time and said, and when you say yes to this, you're going to lose some things,
Yes.
right?
Oh gosh. Oh my God. Talk about
And
that loss.
and and I lost some things. And the things I lost was material things, but it's not nowhere compared to what I gained,
Oh gosh.
right?
Yes. God.
So
yeah.
that's
Right.
all a
Right.
part of the spiritual. That's all a part of the spiritual growth. And then now since I've been shot, the spiritual growth has gotten greater,
Yes.
right? And now I have people coming to me saying, "I just can't wait until the day you give your first sermon." And I'm
Oh
like,
girl.
"That's not for
Yeah.
me. That's not for me. I feel like it's not for me." Right? I'm
You.
saying that. I'm saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not what
But
it's right, but that's not what God is putting on. That's
right.
not what
So
God is putting. He's putting it in it out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yay.
He's putting it out
Yay.
there because I
Yay.
yeah.
said so. I said, and like I said to a couple of people who have said it to me, right? I said, well, being a person who ministered to people is like being a person, like being a doctor who saves lives. So
A
either you
doctor
want
that
to,
prescribed
That's true.
medication. I mean,
right?
you still prescribing medication. You're prescribing that spiritual medication that spiritual.
Exactly.
And I tell people that's how to me because people say, "Oh, you left the church," and I guess they think I don't know what they think of me now. But my thing is, you have to leave the emergency room once you are bandaged up. When you got those
Exactly.
crutches under your arm, it's time to
Time to
leave there.
leave.
And you might be on those crutches because the leg is still broke, but that wound is going to heal. That
Yeah,
bone is going to mend that.
absolutely.
And that's how I look at walking away from religion and walking into
To
spirituality.
spiritual. Exactly.
It's that relationship and that
Shift.
commitment. Just because we
Key,
have a
key, key.
relationship doesn't mean I'm committed to it. So
Exactly.
to
Key.
me, like
Key.
that's that awakening moment that you have when you go and you transcend from religion, that rebirth, letting the old self die. And you do not know the new self, but you trust that process there.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's like finding yourself all over again. You got to learn who you really are. It's like,
Who
you
that
know,
person is.
who's that person? And
Yeah.
you go back and it's kind of like you go into a time clock, and like you go back through your life, and he was like, I remember when I did this and I remember when I did that, and now
Yeah.
I'm here on a different level, and the spiritual connection is is so powerful.
Oh gosh,
And
yes.
you and it's like it becomes such it what it becomes addictive because you want more and more and
Oh
more
yeah.
and more of it, right? So now, since my incident and what happened to me, I want more, right?
Hmm.
And so now I'm trying to figure out how can I get more because I'm my spirit is
Well,
still
well,
needing
I,
to be fed.
right. Well, I just like to say that when you said recognizing who you are now, but
Hmm.
um people that's around you and people that tell you that you have the anointing all over you, they have always recognized who you were. They were just
Right.
waiting for you to catch up to what God had already showed them in you. And so,
Absolutely.
with that being said, when when that being said, the more you inspire people and the more this resonates in your spirit, it's going to feed your soul. And as it's feeding your soul, it's doing wonderful things for you and your ministry and for your family. Because
Yeah.
that healing process can only come from your ministry when you inspire other people to be great. Because you sharing your story, it has got somebody in tears right now saying, well, if she can talk about it after being shot 10 times and she's living and breathing and she's ministering to the youth and to other people, and she's also writing a book to show you her revelation and how she overcame those challenges and those obstacles, then how thou great is God to her. And I just say, Queen Marty, that you're definitely blessed by the best. None other. You
Oh,
you definitely blessed by the
absolutely. Oh,
best
absolutely.
on so
Oh,
many different
absolutely.
levels.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I
And I'm
just
saying it's Jacob, it's it's sometimes it hits me and I just start praising God and I just thank God. I said, thank you for keeping my mind, just my
Mm,
mind, because
yes.
some people would have went crazy after this happened to them. I've known people have
yes.
gone crazy after their loved ones were shot. I known a childhood friend's son who was murdered, and she went crazy, and she's not the same. And I hate to use the word crazy, but she's brokenhearted,
Hmm.
very brokenhearted to the point that she's not herself anymore. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I lost a niece a couple years ago, shot one time, died. And every day it's a battle for her mom. Um, I lost a cousin, my husband's cousin, a well-known rapper, was getting ready to make it out of Baltimore, um, murdered, mistaken identity, supposedly. Um, a cousin, another cousin, another first cousin, two first cousins. A first cousin lost her son, and I lost a first cousin. Then the same first cousin who lost her son lost her granddaughter's mother. So why are we? I
Mm,
mean, it's just like you know, and I constantly try to just just because I'm here and I'm a survivor of it, I constantly try to encourage and help them along the way because I'm still here, but their loved ones are gone on. So how can I keep them? God, how can you use me to keep them? And so, and what I know is that every time they look at me and um they see me and they talk to me, I know it's a fulfilling thing to them because even though they are broken, they know that it's still a God. They still know that it's someone of a higher power. So it keeps them going too. So, like you said, it's an inspiration to them. And I get it all the time in my inbox. I get phone calls all the time. Um, and I always tell people, people say, girl, you ain't never available. You ain't never this, you always busy. Until somebody's with me on a daily basis and they'll see how many times my phone rings all day long, nonstop. And so um I said, this is a part of the yes. Remember, I said yes.
Hmm.
This is a part of the yes. So I can't turn my back now. I'm here. And I'm
Well,
just so blessed. I am blessed. I
you
am
couldn't
just
turn
so
your back if
blessed.
you wanted to.
But it's not going
You
to allow
couldn't
me.
turn your back if you wanted to, Marty.
No,
You
absolutely
know, you
not.
couldn't do it because
Absolutely.
grace
Oh,
and
it
mercy
would allow
is
me.
already set the avenue for you. It's not going to allow you to do it
It's
because
not.
you know why?
It's not
Those
going to allow
people who
me.
don't have love, right? So those people who don't have loved ones here anymore, they see you as an inspiration, and they see that you are going to help give them closure because you're still walking and encouraging, inspiring people, and your ministry is growing abroad. You're going to have
Oh
a global
gosh.
ministry, so really, really get prepared for that global ministry because you're definitely going to have that global ministry.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's a confirmation because somebody else told me that, right, Jacob? Somebody else told me that, and I was
Mm.
like,
And mercy,
um, uh, you know, um, yeah, somebody else told me that. So, oh my gosh. So yeah, I have to get prepared. You
Yep.
know, um,
you
but
definitely do.
it's an awesome feeling. And it takes people different times in their space and their time to get to where I am as far as with forgiveness and all of that, because everybody can't, they're not there, and I don't expect people to be there, um and you have to deal with people on their timing, on you know what they able to soak up with the loss of their loved ones and things like that.
Right,
So
right, right.
but for me, it was like an instant. It was like an
Mm.
instant. And you know why? Because and I'm telling you, God will test you on everything you say, because I used to watch these TV shows, and there used to be people on there like who lost their loved ones, and they would go to these jailhouses, and they would forgive people for murdering their loved ones. And I used to always say to my husband, I say, "Oh, I could do that. I'll be able to do that." And so my husband's like, "You say that now until you lost someone or until something happened." And again, there was another test because it happened to me. So now I'm going to see if you really going to live up to your word. You know, I'm going to see if you really going to live up to your word
Right.
and forgive the person that try to harm you and take your life. And if you're going to forgive that person, you know, um, and it kind of hit me instant. It was like in a matter of 2 weeks. It was just like by downtime, and it was just like it just hit me, and it just came to me, and the Holy Spirit just was like, "You have to forgive in order for you to move on to this next level. You have to forgive." So, um, it's not easy for everybody. Forgiveness is really a hard
No.
thing. It's really hard, you know.
Hmm.
It's really hard. People could barely forgive people for taking a bag of chips from them. So imagine if you forgiving somebody that took somebody you love and you're not going to see anymore. It's a hard thing.
Right.
And
It
so,
is.
we could speak about it, but you have to wait till a person get to that space and say, I'm ready for that. You know, but for me, it was just like almost like an
Right.
instant thing, because like Chantel has said at one time before, we lock people up, and they take on the mentality of what they're dealing with in the inside. You're not reforming a person. You're not reforming a person. You're basically setting them up to come out here in the world to cause more damage than what they already done. So, you know, um, when I go to court, I have some things I want to say, and it's not hateful. I have some things I want to say, and I just hope and pray that they take it in a positive way, and not a way that is something
Hmm.
that's going to harm. Because by any means necessary, um, I want to see the goodness. I want to see the goodness of this whole incident come out full circle, not just for me as the
Right.
victim survivor, but as the person who caused the damage, right? For me, if
Hmm.
I can, for me, And even though I have already done the work of a servant, right? But for me to get the glory from this gentleman who caused me harm and get him in a place where he need to be, and he don't even have to be on my actual spiritual aspect with what I believe in, but some type of spiritual aspect, and him being able to come back and service a community and help somebody else from not going back that route. I
Hmm.
did my job here on this earth. That's my full service thing.
That's right.
That's
That's
my
right.
full service, right? So that's what
Okay.
I'm looking for.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for. And
Okay.
then I can say to Marty Brandon, job well done. You know, and
That's
then
right. That's right. So
when it's when it's time for me to meet my maker, he can say, Murray, welcome on in here, because girl, your job is well done. You know, so that's what I'm looking for.
that's right.
You know, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Okay. Well, Murray, man, this has been a really uh great episode to really educate us, empower us, embrace us, and just to talk about what goes on with the mothers that face gun violence. And I do sincerely thank you. It's been very uplifting, very spiritual. You know, it's certain times like this that we can uplift each other when something detrimental happens to someone we're connected with or someone that we love, but that spiritual growth and that grace and mercy helps bring that empowerment and that uplifting so we can see the good in it. Because even though something happened to you that was very bad, there's a lot of good in this testimony that can help and inspire others to move forward with their life that's lost loved ones. So we always got to see the
Absolutely.
greater good in things because God gives us people to help us and keep us encouraged and to keep us inspired. So I just
Yeah.
want to thank you once again and um
Oh,
just want
absolutely.
you
I had,
to
I had to keep
tell
my composure on here because I was about to break loose on you with some tears, but I didn't. I was like, keep it cool, Marty, keep it cool, because because
okay.
I'm telling
I
you,
mean,
it's a special
if you
thing.
have to break loose with them right, if you break loose with them tears, we all just gonna take it for love and we gonna keep it moving. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
it's
So
a special thing,
um
and I just really
I
appreciate
just
you
want to
all
thank you.
reaching out.
Thank you for
Oh
coming
yeah,
on,
yes,
Marty.
yes.
Like,
We had
thank you for bringing awareness. And I don't know if I don't think we mentioned it, but May is mental health awareness. And we know that gun violence, it takes a toll on the mental health for the entire family, community, victims,
Yes,
survivors, everybody that's
yes,
involved. So I just hope that tonight, that your story confirms someone else, survivor, and to let them know. I mean, it's been Baltimore City always have, shootings going on. So even while we're talking, just to imagine that someone is being harmed right now and that mental health is in question. So it's my prayer that all minds are covered that's
yes.
dealing with this oh gosh, this
And our and
world
our
of
and
gun
our black
violence.
and our black men, I mean, black boys and men are like 60, what, like 62% out of 100,000 that's been gunned down. Like on
Hmm.
a scale, that's a lot. That's more than half of, you know, it's too
yes,
many.
yes,
It's too many.
Yeah, too
yeah,
many.
yes.
Yeah.
It's too many. So, and it's just not here. It's in any urban city,
Oh yeah.
in
Oh
any urban city
yeah.
you go to.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and I thank you all for just bringing awareness to it. I thank you all for having me on the show, and thank you all for allowing me to be able to talk about it. And maybe, the young man who might have hopped on and seen this live, who may have a gun in his hand, might not want to retaliate tonight.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
That's right.
Yes.
so
That's right. That's right.
Yes. So hopefully we'll keep doing these more. We'll follow your journey. I know I ain't gonna close us out. Jacob is, but I'm because I know he's about to close us out because we over. So I'm just like getting in there, like, well, so anyway, we're gonna keep this going. Marty, I break all the rules, right? So we're
Yeah.
gonna keep this going. We're gonna keep this going, and hopefully we will be, we'll be meeting and mixing soon, and definitely still keeping up with the Let's Heal Together, supporting you, near and far, and I'm excited to
Yeah.
see where we're going to go. I will never take the lead in gun violence because that's not my area, but I am most grateful that you are being a voice for many of us who's surviving and who's been impacted by gun violence in our family too. So me to you, thank you. And always remember for me, Big Kedrick, as you go forth with this, because I did not talk about it and I'm still healing from that. So just for you to be able to survive and tell your story, his story, and so many other stories mean the world to me. So whatever unique blessings can do, will continue to do for you and the Kissy Pools and your whole platform, like Jacob said, that you'll be going with globally, to bring awareness to the issues of gun violence and your survival story, just to let us all know that even if our loved ones have transitioned, that is still room for survival stories on this earth. So
Absolutely,
thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. Now I'll make sure I have a project coming up next week, and I'll make sure I'll share it with you all. And it's going to be with a group of people who are survivors of gun violence, mental health,
Nice.
and
Okay.
some other things. So be on the lookout for that too. And I just thank you all for just having me and being able to share my story. It's a pleasure.
Yes, and I know Jacob's
All
going to ask
right.
you the ultimate question.
All
So,
right.
Jacob, you're going to say, Marty, where can they find you? I said, go ahead, Jacob, close us out, bring us
That's
out.
right, Marty. Your story is definitely inspirational. It's definitely heartfelt. It's definitely a lot for me to intake, but I do thank you.
it it has been the
Because
longest show we've
anybody that
ever done too.
yes, anybody that know me, they know that King Jacob loved his mama. So, so therefore, this was a lot for me to intake and to
Mother's Day
know
is
that
coming.
you,
Like, thank God that Marty
right,
is still
right,
here and she's able to be celebrated. My Mother's
yes,
Day
Yeah.
is this weekend. So,
Hmm.
like, oh God,
that's right.
miracles just all around and unique blessings just mixing all up in there.
Yes,
So,
yes,
from
yes.
one mother to
That's right.
another mother,
Another
I'm
mother.
so
Yes.
happy that we can celebrate you and just look at you. And
And
Definitely,
Jacob,
girl,
you know
wear
how
that red head, that yellow
definitely.
hat that you had going on.
yes. and Jacob and Jacob, you know how boys and men are about their mamas, right?
Oh,
Right, right.
So
Yeah,
it's tough.
yeah. So,
That
wh-
thing is tough too. Yeah.
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. So, where can people find you at? And they want to get up with you, because that
So
story of yours, whoo wee.
so I
Look, an
have
hour and a half ain't enough. I mean, we went over 30 minutes. I think that's the best we could do, but
my
this is
Facebook
good.
handler is Kiss Inc. So just KISS space INC. My Instagram is Kiss Marae Brandon. That's K.I.S.S. Marae Brandon, MARAYBRANDON. The website is www.kissinc.org. I mean, kissinc.org, yeah, .org. And what else do we have? Oh my goodness. I think that's it. That's how you can find me.
Okay,
And if they can,
okay.
if
Well,
they
y'all heard it
check for
first
us,
time
we'll definitely send them your way too. So you got more.
Yeah.
You got
for
Jacob
sure.
Tunes. They can find you through there. You got Shasha. They can find you through there. We're not losing you, and we're not letting go because you are God's true living example of
Yeah.
what a miracle looks like. So I
And
love you.
so I love you too. And I definitely
That's
thank
right.
you for introducing me to King Jacob because I'm telling you, he's something
Yes.
special. I was like,
Yes.
yeah. So thank you all. It's a
Appreciate you. I
pleasure.
definitely appreciate you.
It's an
And
honor.
whatever I can do, well, of course, I may be traveling to see you all. What I think it's June the 6th or something. Y'all have an event?
June the 6th. We in Atlanta, June the
Yeah.
6th.
So, um,
Hmm.
and I'll be seeing you all, and thank you all, and it's a pleasure,
Yes.
as I say again. So, and I'll be traveling to see you all soon.
Can't wait, Marty. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right.
You are definitely celebrated and you appreciate it. This is the Chatterbox
And
with Jacob
happy
Toon, powered
Mother's
by the
Day.
Thank
to
you.
all. To all. Happy Mother's Day to all, to you, Marty, to you, Queen Unique. And this is powered by Unique Blessings nonprofit organization, sponsored by the UB podcast, and none other than Miss Johnny Allen. We love you, Aunt Johnny, and until next time, peace, love, and God's purpose all over the world. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.